Hello everyone and welcome to another Python 3 tutorial. This video is going to be about the for loop. The for loop is pretty much used for the same task as the while loop. They are completely interchangeable. Typically the while loop will be used if you wanted to have an infinite loop, and the for loop is used when you want to iterate over some collection of values. But that said, both of them are interchangeable. You can use one or the other. It doesn't matter. It just comes down to personal preference. I personally prefer the for loop just because it's a bit more compact. So let's see some examples of the for loop. Now in the last video, we printed 1 to 10 with the while loop. Let's do the same but with the for loop this time. To use the for loop, type for and then use a variable. So let's say number, and then type n and range. So range is a built-in function in Python. So what it will do is it will generate a list of numbers less than 11, and range by default starts with 0. So it will generate a list of numbers from 0 to 10, and in is a part of this for syntax. So it basically separates our number, our variable, and range, which is also called as an iterable. After you type the statement, don't forget to add the colon and press enter. Now let's print our numbers. Now let's run this. Now you can see it printed from 0 to 10. But let's say we want to print from 1 to 10. So what we can do then is we can specify the start. First we say 1. So we want the numbers to start with 1, then comma, and then 11. So what it will do is it will generate a list of numbers from 1 to 10. If we don't specify the first number, it by default starts with 0. Now let's run this. And now you can see it printed from 1 to 10. And one other thing you can do with range is if we add another comma and let's say we type 2, it will increment the numbers by 2 every time. So let's run this and see what it does. And you can see it incremented 1 by 2. So first it printed 1, then added 2, and it printed 3. Now 3 plus 2 is 5, and 5 plus 2 is 7. So it basically incremented each number by 2. Now as you can see, these numbers are also odd numbers. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 are odd numbers. Now let's say you want to print even numbers. So we will just replace this 1 by 0. Now let's run this. And now we can see that it printed even numbers. 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 are all even numbers. Now, indentation is really important in Python. So if we print a statement outside the indentation of Python, let's say we print subscribe, and let's run this. And you can see it printed the numbers first, all the even numbers, and then it printed subscribe. So first Python completed the execution of the for loop. It completed printing all the even numbers and until the numbers were less than 11, and then it printed subscribe. But let's say we add this print statement inside the indentation of for. To enter the indentation of for, press tab. Now let's run this. Now you can see it printed the number first, and then it printed subscribe, and then it looped over and then printed this number and then printed subscribe. Similar to the while loop, for also has its else. So let's type else. Now let's run this. And you can see it printed the even numbers and then it executed our else block. In my experience, I haven't needed to use else with for, but that's that. Now the for loop is mostly used to iterate over list. I haven't taught what list is yet, but list basically is a collection of values that are stored in a single variable. Let's define a list. So let's name a variable. So let's say number list. So this is our variable name, but after the equal sign, we'll encase all the different numbers in the square brackets. So let's say 1, and you separate the values with the comma. So let's say 1, 2, and 0. So this entire list of numbers is now stored in our variable number list. Now we can say for each number in number list, then colon. Now each number is our variable and number list is this variable that contains this list. Now if we print each number, let's run this. And you can see it printed our entire list. So we'll talk about lists in the next video, but this is how you use for loop with list or any other collection of values. So anyways, that's the for loop. Hope you guys are able to understand these tutorials. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I will try to answer those questions. Support me by subscribing, and as always, thanks for watching, and until next time.